Hello, my name's Peter Connors. Thank you for inviting me to send you a presentation about myself with a view to working with the Cercle des Langues. In his video, Francois asked 8 questions. I propose to answer them in turn, but as you've already seen my CV, I'll try not to repeat myself too much. So your first question was, who am I? My name's Peter Connors. I'm British. I grew up in the northwest of England and I'm now back in the northwest, living in Alderley Edge in Cheshire. The nearest big city is Manchester. At school, I developed a passion for languages and I went on to study languages at Worcester College, Oxford. Vous m'avez demandé si je parlais français. Je réponds oui, bien sûr. J'ai étudié la langue et la littérature française à l'université d'Oxford. Aussi, il y a 30 ans, j'ai travaillé pendant 2 ans et demi au poste d'expansion économique auprès de l'ambassade de France à Londres, où j'étais responsable de la documentation commerciale. My degree was in French and German to an equal level. I learned Italian at evening classes up to A level, and I'm now learning Serbian. Why Serbian? Because my wife has Serbian and British nationality. What about my other enthusiasms? Well, the main one is classical music, as a listener, not a performer. I have written reviews of concerts for Backtrack.com, and you can find them on Backtrack's website. And of course, I like travelling, or I used to before the pandemic. Your second question was about admin. My wife and I are directors of a company, Rakic Connors Associates Limited, and I can submit invoices on behalf of that company. That's how I dealt with work and payment in Germany in 2018. As for my availability for teaching, I'm looking for perhaps 4, 5 or 6 hours a week in the mornings between, say, 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. UK time, but I can be flexible. I could also work early evenings between about 4 and 7 p.m. UK time, but I'd rather not do that more than 2 evenings a week. As for weekends, at the moment, I often have Japanese online students on Saturday or Sunday mornings. I could clear some time for Cercle des Langues, preferably if this was at a regular time each week. I'd like to run my answers to questions 4, 5 and 6 together, as they all relate to teaching English. I've been teaching English as a foreign language since 2016 when I took the Cercle course. You can see the outline of when I've taught and where on my CV, so I'll just tell you a little about 3 of my jobs. Shortly after I got the CELTIF qualification, I started doing some online teaching for Schema Talk. This is an American company which arranges online English tuition for Japanese people, mostly working in the financial sector or in the pharmaceutical industry. I've continued to do this work ever since. Some students I've had only once or twice, others have become regulars, and I've had over 200 lessons with one of these students. In 2017, I spent 6 months teaching business English for Words in Darmstadt in Germany. I taught small groups of students, no more than 8 at a time, in a few companies in Darmstadt and Frankfurt. The students included senior managers, lab technicians, HR professionals, IT people, secretaries, even firefighters, all sorts of people really. And the third job I'd like to tell you about is my work in Serbia for Tom and Emma. As I mentioned, my wife has Serbian nationality, and we have a flat in Belgrade, and we wanted to spend more time there, especially when my mother-in-law became seriously ill. I managed to make contact with an English language school called Tom and Emma, where they do evening classes for teenagers and adults, and which has a very good reputation, which I think it deserves. I did some occasional conversation classes and covered for a few classes where the regular teacher was not available. And then they asked me to do some regular work from the start of the 2019 to 20 academic year. I had 2 classes of teenagers, a class of 3 university students and 2 individual adult learners. These were all held in the school, and most of them were twice a week. In addition, I taught one person online. He was an engineer in his 30s who lived in a small town outside Belgrade. Unfortunately, in March 2020, the pandemic hit Serbia as well as the rest of the world. I had to return to the UK and I had to stop my lessons at Tom and Emma, except for the engineer, and I continued to have weekly lessons with him until last December. I've also done some online conversation classes with 2 groups of teenagers for that school. So, to summarise, I've taught in person and online, I've taught individuals and groups, I've taught teenagers and adults. What do I like best? Well, I definitely prefer teaching adults to teaching children and teenagers. Your 7th question was about teaching methods, and I should begin by saying I'm very curious about what material Cercle des Langues uses. Do you prepare your own courses? I like to focus on the needs of the students, and that includes their reasons for learning English, but also the style that suits them: grammar, discussion, writing letters and reports, and so on. And do they have time for homework? I like to give feedback too, often just a quick email after a class, summarising what we've done and perhaps giving a bit of encouragement to someone who is finding it difficult. And it also helps to build a rapport with the students. I've used my own material adapted from various books and the internet, as well as following set courses. Some of my favourites are Lingua House, BBC 6-Minute English, Murphy's English Grammar in Use, the English File courses, and Work on Your Accent by Ashton and Shepherd. So, what is my unique selling point? Well, it's my experience. I spent 20 years as a solicitor in a commercial law firm in Manchester, where I specialised in pensions law. So I'm used to operating in a business environment, writing to colleagues and clients and talking to them, taking part in business meetings and so on. Finally, you asked me about my qualifications. As I mentioned before, I have a degree in modern languages from Oxford. I did the CPE in Manchester, that's the conversion course to become a lawyer for people who have a degree in a subject other than law, and I then qualified as a solicitor. And in 2016, I got the CELTA qualification for teaching English. So that's all for now. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you and goodbye.